Awesome. So our members open mic will take place at 8 p.m. on Tuesday, August 20th. And then our next featured reading will feature Katerina Stoikova and will take place at 8 p.m. on Tuesday, September 17th. Now that housekeeping things are out of the way, we're going to focus on the reason that we are all here tonight. We are here to experience the poetry of Dorian Hairston. So I'm going to read an intro to introduce Dorian. Before I do that, I'm going to give y'all a short poem to like warm us up and then hand the floor over to Dorian. So Dorian will read some of his poetry to us. We'll have a Q&A segment where you, the audience, will get to pose questions to the poet. As Dorian is reading, please drop your burning questions into the chat, and I'll do my best to go through and address everyone at the end. If you enjoyed Dorian's reading today, which I know you will, please support his work by ordering Pretend the Ball is Named Jim Crow directly from the poet by using the purchasing link that I am inserting into the chat right now. All right. So I'm going to do like a sacrificial warm up and then read Dorian's bio and then hand the floor over to him. So this poem is called Building Altars. Like clockwork, Mary wears a shroud every Saturday morning, dons her beautiful head in a blue and white cloth embroidered in gold, bows her obedient head as the man on the prayer line gives thanks for the recruitment of the young, how they continue to flow in, how they continue to walk right. Yesterday, right as my meditation ended, Mary called to say, God told me to tell you to breathe. I thanked Mary, told her how I just found my breath. She said, see how he works? See how he loves us right on time? See? You see? Don't you see? Rather than acknowledge her disapproval, Mary observes my altars. She explores the gaps between offerings, trades her questions for curiosity. On my altars, Mary finds the perfect spots to place her latest cups of coffee, finds ash and earth as evidence, tilts her righteous head and pontificates the ruins of the wicked. How shameful our lack of rest. Yesterday, I built my altar, brown red cloth, bow and arrow, pepper, scissors, book, peppercorn, cinnamon incense, carved candle, cactus, amethyst, quartz, jasper, emerald. I spoke survival into a stone. I buried it beneath the ferns. Thank y'all for hearing that poem. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Dorian. Dorian Hairston is a poet, educator, and former college athlete from Lexington, Kentucky. His first collection of poetry, Pretend the Ball is Named Jim Crow, explores the life and legacy of Josh Gibson, the greatest catcher to play the game of baseball. He is an Appalachian poet, whoop whoop, and his work has appeared in Anthology of Appalachian Writers and Blackbone, 25 Years of the Appalachian Poets. While he enjoys reading and writing poetry, what he loves most is to cook for his family, play some good music, drink a little bourbon, and dance often. Please welcome Dorian.
Thank you. As of late, it's more than a little bourbon. But thank you for that. Thank you for that lovely introduction, and that sacrificial poem to get us started. As Nita Jade said in the introduction, I'm an educator, and I spent the last school year. I am unmuted, and everybody can hear me fine, right? Okay. I think this microphone might be too good, so if you get a whole bunch of background noise, just let me know, and I'll turn the gain down. But I spent the last year as a behavior coach at an elementary school in the district I work for, And one of my experiences as a behavior coach um, happened like early spring ish. Um, and it was one of the few times where I've felt like I needed to cry at work, and it was tears of joy. So I'm also going to test the audience out a little bit and see who I'm dealing with. This is watermelons and books. And this without further ado, Dorian Hairston reading watermelons and books. We went to war today, surrounded by books inside a library, and what, might you ask, did we do? Simply put, we took semi transparent, almost translucent pegs, plugged them into backlit board designed during Ramadan, a flag using vibrant watermelon colors slightly off center. Upon offering my assistance, they, only a little unsure of my allegiance, rushed to completion, their masterpiece, then tiptoed through books to a new task, tagging computer screens with thousands of digital flags made by tiny hands and even smaller pixels. I could not resist resistance any longer, enlisted myself into an army of little joyful giggling heartbeats, and I adjusted the watermelon's rind, two whole spaces, conjuring the appearance of a more even, more just, more democratic, more free space. We welcomed into this library the bravery of angelic martyrs who threw stones at tanks and watched the Fakwa iris blossom from the rubble of home. I migrated elsewhere to water a garden beneath my cheeks, on one side by river, other by sea, admire all we have done. Meanwhile, these children act as if they do not see me cry. Observe, in middle of pegboard flag, where white space is replaced by reddish pink heart. Dear reader, you should have seen the way they placed each peg perfectly, as if rebuilding communities on bombed land, reuniting families, resurrecting dead, reclaiming country, establishing democracy. How their resistance seemed almost deliberate, blatant militant defiance until an epiphany. All they were doing was breathing. So that's a heavy one to start out with. But that poem is forthcoming from Red Branch Review. And this next poem is also forthcoming from Red Branch Review. This one is a deviation from what I previously wrote or what I just read. And then I'm gonna read some newer stuff, and then I will close with some stuff in this beautiful book, Pretend the Ball is Named Jim Crow, the story of Josh Gibson, that I will spend some time talking about. Did I get any questions in there? Or just if not, I'm gonna go ahead. So this next one is not a persona poem either. Most of everything else that I will read today will be. This one, I've been struggling with the title, and it's forthcoming from Red Ranch Review, so I think they're cool with the title. So, perfect. Thank you. Did you know coyotes practice monogamy too? When the sun was about halfway through its morning stroll across the mirror that reflects over this bluegrass space, making the sky just a little more blue for us than anywhere else, there were trees along the path blocking the bush hog from passing between fields, and we all had a chainsaw and assless chaps worn over jeans, and I, carrying an axe, felt like John Henry as trees bowed to my well-placed strike, felling graciously before being chained up, then carried or dragged to the barn to dry for next winter. Like I said, It is only mid-morning and right before the gate separating the forest from the field where you pick the last of the season's flowers during the warmest parts of the day, a stench these allergy-ridden nostrils found unfamiliar curdles my stomach, and to the right behind the oak last week's storm assassinated was the corpse of one unlucky coyote. So me and the only man with tattoos among us picked up rotting flesh, wrapped around decomposing fat and muscle, requesting this stiff, almost skeleton continue his nourishment of the soil further off our trail. I made up a story about how sad this coyote, who I named Othello, and his Desdemona, who must be somewhere close preparing his hero's welcome, are planning a family home inside a den nearby. So I whisper, sorry, in case she is awake and listening for soft steps, since it's just us men and we're working, and it's illegal for us to offer condolences or remorse. We cut all day, breaking only for lunch and a second time to admonish the ash beetle, which had laid waste to each of those baseball trees, as I christened them, mocking us with its hideous cursive signature slithering S-like shape, mimicking Sherman's bow ties up and down the trunk, and our day's work followed the tractor to the barn, dimly lit by the moonrise, and for the evening, most everyone else made their way back home, but we decided to stay. I do not remember dinner or the book you read down by the pond across from the barn holding the wood from last winter, now fully seasoned, where I, with a sledgehammer and splitting maul, crack open our heat for the night, and on the couch, after I have washed away the scent of dead coyote, open calluses, rotten sweat, hold Kentucky's mash between my fingers and watch the flames flicker and leap across the silent air of this space. Through beige spirit, Othello's lover calls from outside with a painful shrill. When no sound is made except the smack of fish on the surface of the water down the hill, or the crickets who can't hear the frogs croak, so they strum their violins with vigor, or the muted swallow of my ritualistic sip, we stare at the reflection of ourselves flashing across our brown irises, burning a sepia moment into my retinas. It is here, not knowing what to do with my grief, I finish stealing ancestral offerings from charred white oak barrels dispensed into glass, place the clear clask on a table beside us, and to cope with this mortal coil, I turn your skin to braille while the music plays and we create our own dance, warming ourselves to the point we never notice the blaze on the other side of the room has finally flared out. I said, so I'm gonna switch it up a little bit. Because I'm gonna try something out. We've got a smaller audience. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about this book here. My office is a mess, so I'm using the Galaxy to cover up what's behind me. But Pretend the Ball's named Jim Crow, the story of Josh Gibson. So I played baseball for I think I started when I was 6, finished when I was 22. So how many years is that? 10, 16 years. So I played baseball for almost half of my life at this point. I'm 30 years old. And then I coached for a little bit after that. Thank you, Jennifer. The So one of the things that I found when I was in high school was that I needed a additional credit in order to stay eligible for baseball because I was not going to get enough time at my paid internship during the season. So I picked up an independent study to make sure that I was getting those credits taken care of. Well, one Phyllis Schlick from Tates Creek High School told me that I had to write a chapbook that was very similar, if not exactly the same, as Frank X. Walker's Isaac Murphy, I Dedicate This Ride, but using a Negro League baseball player. So I started with Jackie Robinson, and it was abysmal. The poems were terrible, and she told me is she said that nicely, but um, I went back to the library and the librarians. I said, "Hey, Miss Wolf, Miss Prawl, both of them have different last names now. Um, I need help." So they find the only book, which yeah, it's sitting right above on the other side of my computer, in the library that had a detailed description of the life of Josh Gibson. And I fell in love with everything about his life, through storytelling, at least. Um, and 10 years later, I got this book. So I'm gonna start with a with a poem that's a persona poem from the persona of Josh Gibson. I like to start with this one because I think it kind of gives you an idea um, of what Josh would have told me. So Josh Gibson is now the record holder, as of I think a month ago, maybe, for Major League Baseball for career batting average, unseating Ty Cobb, which is just so, for any baseball fans or know for anybody who knows anything about the individual, this Ty Cobb, a black man, removing him as the all-time batting average leader is chef's kiss. Um, so Josh Gibson also is credited with hitting over 800 home runs in his career. Major League Baseball only counts 200 and some change of them. And his wife tragically passed away, giving birth to a set of twins. The twins survived. His wife, both twins, are also in this series as well. And I try to write some poems from his point of view and explore really what it was like for me to play baseball as a black man or black boy, then black man, and then what I think Josh would have to say to me if he could, if he could. So this is manifesto for black baseball players. 1. Never forget the 42 reasons baseball is best played with color. 2. Steal bases like they stole this country. 3. Break into record books, turn more than just the ink black. 4. Pretend the ball is named Jim Crow. 5. Decolonize the Hall of Fame. 6. Remember we gave the game lights, helmets, and style. 7. Never be controlled by anything white. 8. Belt, lift every voice, and sing during the national anthem. 9. Find you a Helen, drop down on one knee, place a baseball field on her fourth finger. So it was when Major League Baseball made the decision to make thank you when Major League Baseball made the decision to make Josh Gibson the all-time leader and acknowledge his contributions to the game. I had a couple of friends that texted me, break into record books, turn more than just the ink black. And that was a very surreal moment for me, because when I penned that, I did not think that was ever gonna happen. But sometimes you just gotta speak stuff into existence. And then the last, so this is I'm calling these poems World Series poems. So any poem that's a series of 9 couplets, I call them World Series. So they're baseball. You got a top half and a bottom half of an inning. So 9 couplets gives you a complete game. A couple of these poems go into extra innings, but that last stanza is a reference to Helen, his wife, and he actually never remarried. And his in the cemetery that he is buried, his grave is the most visited in the whole place. But he is not buried next to his wife. So this next poem I'm going to read is a persona poem from the persona of Helen Gibson, and it is titled Naming. Doc says there are 2 sets of feet trying to stretch themselves a little more room inside me, and they're running out of space. I feel they might be searching for another belly soon, the way they wrestle each other into a comfortable position. It's like all the secrets and promises Josh has blown into my ear have slid into my womb and grown themselves too big for what docs say is my too small frame. We both think he's wrong. Josh's favorite thing to do when he tries to catch some sleep is to place his callus covered hands on my tummy and try to guess which part of the twins is on the other side of my stretched out thin layer of skin. As he doze off, he liked to tell them how he prays they come out looking as good as their mom. He even tries out a few names on them, then places his head close to listen for the twins' approval. We all let him play his game. When Josh gets to sleep and snores enough times for them to feel confident he out for good, the twins whisper up in my ear exactly what they want to be called and make me promise to keep it a secret. So I'm going to read, so I'm going through here. I've been obsessed as of late with this. So I'm working on. You all are catching me at like the very beginning stages of a project I'm working on with the managers of Negro League baseball teams. Very similar to this, but possibly trying to do some genre blending or whatever. But I've been really obsessed with what Negro League Baseball offered for the economies of these Black metropoles, where you had large populations of Black folk living together in, right before World War II, so Great Depression, and not just surviving, like having a good time being around each other and finding ways to do that. And like at a Negro League baseball game, you would see. Well, first off, church started early if there was a game, because they knew that if the game time happened during church, folks were just gonna get up and go. And so that to me, that's beautiful. I think that Negro League baseball and baseball just in general offers people an opportunity to just sit and relax and have a really good time. If you don't believe me, go watch Ellie De La Cruz. I digress. So Westfield, this is the persona of Hooks Tinker. This is the individual who is oftentimes credited with discovering Josh Gibson. Some folks say black ball ain't baseball, and they right. When a man save up all week to drop his last copper to come see us play, it become more than a game. When the collection plate get passed around on Sunday and the whole family just touch the rim knowing they spending the Lord's 10% on an afternoon at the field, we understand we are forgiven. This is one of the few times we able to let ourselves shine to the fullest. Even white folk bring their lunch boxes and gloves and a dog to the park, spend a whole afternoon rubbing elbows and clapping and cheering, dancing with us. I seen a man get down on one knee about halfway up third baseline and ask his woman to go to every game with him for the rest of their life. It ain't baseball we offer folk when they lay down their money to watch some black ball. We offer up the one place where we all agree a Negro ain't nothing but a man. So one of the I'm gonna transition now. I'm gonna go back and forth because I also want to see if these poems can. So you all, I'm testing this out on you all. I want to see if these poems can work. If you could pick up this book and then pick up the next book, fingers crossed, and read them back to back, and they transition smoothly. So Effa Manley. I don't know if anybody in the audience knows who Effa Manley is. Effa Manley is considered the queen of baseball. She co-owned the Newark Eagles with her husband, Abe Manley, up in Newark, New Jersey. She's the only woman in Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. She was responsible for delivering the 1946 Negro League World Series championship to Newark, New Jersey. She negotiated, she went back and forth. I mean, she would let every man in the business have all the smoke. Uh, she would write, oh, she wrote open letters to Happy Chandler, telling him what she thought about him, who was a commissioner of baseball, who oversaw the integration of Major League Baseball. She let Branch Rickey know that she thought that what he was doing to Negro League Baseball was criminal, and that the baseball players were plucked from their teams, but she did not. The owners were not compensated. They would not allow entire teams of Negro League baseball teams to enter Major League Baseball. She's like, you're underpaying our best players to come play in your league, and we've already established something that works now. This is, I feel, criminal, and I would agree with it, but I digress. So one of the things that she did is she was instrumental in understanding how important it was for the public to see uh, Black folks doing well, and also to see Black folks defending the country. So she would allow for soldiers to come to games for free. So this is me trying to tap into the voice of Effa Manley. And it is Effa Manley explaining why soldiers get in for free. It is a mistake to believe a man in uniform is anything other than absolutely gorgeous. Their silhouette will draw a crowd full of women fawning over the bravery wrapped in crisp fatigues, offering a landing strip for the gaze of paying fans who think they're getting away with something by skipping service in the hopes that one, the Eagles eke out a win, and second, that some of these men can be followed to wherever folk go after the game. It's simple economics. Men bring women. Women bring men. They both spend money at the park. That money pays my players. I teach my players how to stretch a penny into a thread of copper long enough to lace up cleats and use the same braided strand of metal to tie the dress shoes for their suits I require they put on before they leave my clubhouse. Therefore, my players make sure that they women is good and comfortable because it's this commitment that uphold the economy of Newark and everywhere else. This faucet don't trickle. It gushes resources into the pockets of waitresses, shopkeepers, house cleaners, cooks, bartenders, butchers, farmers, each of them black as the outline of home plate. We need to care for our own. Them uniformed men, they understand this is just one step in our well orchestrated concerto. This musical military offensive in which we wear those costumes, masquerade in their mask because we learned from those men who infiltrated the city of Troy and spared all those casualties. When we dignify ourselves in this way, show unified sophistication and unwavering commitment to the promise of liberty, not only does it line all our pockets with with its bountiful profits, we create true sustenance in our own pastures. I ain't endorsing war when I let soldiers in for free. It's my business, and sometimes business is more important than money. We must have morals and standards in these times. Seize this opportunity to show everyone how beautiful we is. Therefore, we must not discriminate and see to it that white folk get paid too, just after all of us. Um, I've been having fun with these poems. Uh, So um so Effa actually, I found a picture of Effa with Josh Gibson. So they crossed paths once at least at a dinner. Um and I've been I haven't written that poem yet, but there was a network of um black elites who were bankrolling not just Negro League baseball, so that we're clear. You needed a loan, and the bank down the street is going to give you a terrible rate, what we would call criminal today. Uh, you go down to these men, and I mean, they were ethical loan sharks, I guess. Like if we can call them that. Um, but the Negro Leagues were run by where they were financed, and at least in part by numbers running. And Gus Greenlee, who is or who was Josh's first kind of big manager. He was the manager of the Crawfords in 1933 when Josh kind of made it big, if you will. And so this one is Gus Greenlee. Also, I will add this. Hopefully, I get this across in his voice. Gus was it interesting. He and Effa went back and forth, and Effa said that he didn't really know what he was doing as a manager, and it was true. So then Gus said to Abe, basically, get your wife in check. And Abe is Effa's husband. And Abe didn't respond because Effa took care of it and wrote a letter back and said, let me tell you a little bit about this game called baseball. So I've been working on they have some letters back and forth. I don't know if those are ready yet, but I'm enjoying the research process at the moment. So this is called Numbers Running, and this is from the persona of Gus Greenlee. Black folk resourceful enough to smuggle rice, cross the Atlantic, turn kitchen scraps into luxury, sneak spirits into songs, pluck roots, and manipulate their properties into something that can pick you up so high your great grandmother starts talking to you. White folk and language get real funny when they start talking about employment, how jobs should really only work for themselves. And after all these generations, they still struggle to find placement for us. And that is where some of them lighter folk in our country, but the ones that still got a little color, get it wrong. Light complexioned folks, ones that minds as pale as they skin, ain't never make nothing for us. At least nothing good or worth sweat or blood. Instead, everything they love made by us, they music, clothes, flag, country, recipes, all stolen from the creativity we got wound tight in the coils and kinks of our hair and the artistic dialect we sidestep their gaze with. When we take the mind to create space for ourselves, call the community together, using the networks crafted in and out of the slave ship and the plantation and the battlefield and the cotton one and them rice and sugarcane and tobacco ones too, we raise up the genius of the blackness in our souls in commune as if, dare I say, we are the real humans. They get it wrong when they tell themselves we was running from them when we picked ourselves up in the night and hopscotched the tree shadows cast by the dim stars during new moons to the brightest one in the sky. Truth is, we so fast our march looked like a sprint. Deliberate steps in any direction look like fleeing if you're always creeping, following, spying on us. They hate themselves. That's why they ban our music, our dance, our song. Pretty soon, they'll ban our dress, our hair, all the way until folk fine with saying that the head on our shoulders and breath in our lungs ain't welcome here, not never. We love us. That's why at every rounding of the base, at every street corner in my parts of the city, there exists real opportunity for my folk to be free. I got cooks and waiters and pushers and runners and dancers and blowers of horns and others too, and lenders and bakers and players all on the payroll. If there is a single black person in this city unemployed, it ain't because of me. And when it come time to pick some numbers, play the version of the lottery that be so black that them whites done made it illegal, know that my cut, after I've got it all counted up, is sprinting itself back into the community right down there at Greenlee Field. That is true. Gus Greenlee, he got tired of he got tired of having to go to the Pittsburgh Pirates, who were terrible. The way I say it, during the 30s, when the Pittsburgh Crawfords and the Homestead Grays were winning Negro League World Series, they were just swapping back and forth. The Pirates were fighting themselves for last place. And there's actually I'll read that one next. There's a telegram that was sent from the Pittsburgh Courier to the Pirates. But Gus Greenlee built a field for these players to play on. So there was a black-owned baseball field in Pittsburgh where Negro League baseball games were being played during the Great Depression. Now these guys weren't balling. I mean, they were eating peanut butter and jelly. Well, really, it was the way they described it. There was no jelly. There wasn't enough money for jelly. It was just peanut butter sandwiches. But the way that they rallied together to create these black institutions is nothing short of amazing for me. So I'm going to transition back to this pretend the ball is named Jim Crow, because at the end of that poem I just read, I realized I have another one that in this collection that I would like to share, and I don't get to read that much. So this is a telegram to Pittsburgh Pirates. It's from Chester Washington, or the persona of Chester Washington, who was a reporter with, the black newspaper, the Pittsburgh Courier, up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Telegram to Pittsburgh Pirates, Chester Washington. White newspapers claim pennant needed. Stop. Black ball players the answer. Stop. Satchel Paige, pitcher. Stop. Cool Papa Bell, outfield. Stop. All Pittsburgh Crawfords. Stop. Buck Leonard, first base. Stop. Ray Brown, pitcher. Stop. Josh Gibson, catcher. Stop. All Homestead Grays. Stop. All affordable, ready to win. Stop. Ready to prove they can play. And then, oh yeah, because I'm sorry, I can do this all night. I do have a question, and are we good to answer questions, or you want me to read a couple more, or how you want to do this?
Read a couple more and then we'll do a Q&A.
Okay. All right. So this let me see, what else do I want to I don't really get to read this one. I don't get to read this one much either. So one of the things that so when Major League Baseball decided to acknowledge Josh's records, I'm blanking on the gentleman's name who had this beautiful monologue about how much this means to baseball and to its fans. And I'm just, Josh Gibson said at one point, when I die, just bury me with all of my trophies. That's the type of competitor he was. He loved winning, and that's what made him happy. And I can relate to that. The only thing I love more than winning is how much I hate losing. And I tried to place that into a poem here, because I think Josh and I are alike in this way. So, living will. When I'm gone, Tell all the little boys and girls never to confuse a baseball cutting through the night sky with a shooting star. Let them know that not all my home runs were launched to the corners of the universe. When my heart stops beating, the game of baseball stays. Don't empty no bottle, even if it's the smoothest liquor you find, over my grave. I want to rest somewhere that looks like the mix of infield dirt and grass. Place home plate above ground at my feet. Let my body rest under the right handed batter's box. Build the fence at least 400 feet away and open a hot dog stand close enough for the smell to warm up my bones. Every Sunday, I want the beautiful Black woman who looked a lot like Helen would have, with the perfectly sewn hats, who almost sat 3 rows, or who always sat 3 rows up, dead center behind first base dugout, to wave at me as she walks down the street to the field. Don't write nothing fancy on my headstone. Bury me with my bat somewhere close to my wife and give my children a kiss. I'm and actually I'm gonna close with this one. Actually I want to read another. So another thing I have in this collection is the bats speak. And one of the um one of the things I like about, or one of the things I like to try to do is have poems talk to each other like right after each other, like one after the other in a collection. So I might try to say one thing, and then on the very next page, another character, especially if I'm doing persona poetry, another character says the exact opposite. I like for the characters to kind of you know clash. I get maybe that's my competitive nature, but I like to try to. So Josh has a poem where he trash talks a teammate, and he's acting like he's big and bad. Well, the very next page, the bats get to speak, and the bat considering a strike. Um, this is the bats considering a strike. Them fellas talk real different when it's just them in the locker room. Josh and his teammates play like they're so-called sweethearts, more like cheap liquor or something you break down and sprinkle into the end of a pipe than a heartbeat or a woman or both. But if you really listen, all that talk about the only way and place they like they women, really just some weird game they play to measure themselves without actually having to do so. They lucky I never choose to speak in here, because I'd tell them all about how I was there when they was being crafted and shaped and nourished by and inside that black womb, and how I whispered my baby's names into the ears of everyone in that room. How them same breasts that they can't shut their mouths about done put all them muscles on that frame they pretend is godlike, and how they waste that bronze skin on bad magic when they speak spells like they do. They better be glad that I ain't so foolish to spend my time bragging about 4 or 5 minutes if I'm generous. That I spend all my energy jumping in and out of what they call the future. Everywhere I've been, they can't see past whatever they got in their hands, and while they waste their time shucking and jiving their way through all their pain and suffering, they lack the vision to think for one moment how lucky they is that in the bottom of the night, I never even contemplate going on strike. And then this last one is the walk off, and this is the only poem in the collection that that I have that is me, that I identify as myself um, speaking. So this is the walk off, or I visit Josh's grave. Get up, Josh. You ain't no Lazarus. You don't need Jesus, no God. You just you. Here's a bat. Get up, get up, get up, Josh. I brought you a glove. Let's play catch. I ain't much on pitching, but we can hit if you just get up. Let us play now. You hear they let us play. They say you was the greatest. You hear me? The greatest there ever was. And I just want to see. Can I see? Can you get up? It's me. I'm just a fan. My name's Dorian. I got power, but not like you. And I read about you once. My high school librarian found the only book in the whole school that mentioned your name. And my English teacher told me to write about you. And I brought some poems for you if you want to listen. That's cool. But I just want to play. Can we play? I know it's weird, me standing over your grave and such, but I think it's weird you're pretending to sleep. So please just get up. Let us play now. They even said sorry, let you in the Hall of Fame, gave you your record that you know that I know you already had. Maybe one day name the award after you, but they say it's better now. They ain't lynching us no more. They don't kill us as much, and we can work for them for more money now, and it's cool. And we done rewrote the record books, and we didn't even have you. But you got to get up to see. You got to get up. Get up, Josh. I'm putting together a team. You were my first pick, but you got to get up, please. I know you ain't Lazarus, and Jesus ain't done much for us, so I figured I'd just ask you straight. Get up. I even got you a uniform if you just want to, if you want to rise up. I want to see. I want to see what they kept me from. I want to see what they were so afraid of. Get up, Josh. Get up. You can't die. Please just get up. Thank you. I will say that last one, when on the date that Josh was or actually I keep on saying Josh. It was like 2,300 Negro League stats were Negro League player stats were entered into the official baseball record. My one of my aunts, I have five of them on my dad's side. Uh, well, she called my dad, and when he answered the phone, he said yes, and she goes, "He got up. Dorian told him to get up, and he got up." So that was I was really excited to hear that. So, um, time for questions.
Yes, thank you so much, Dorian. That was a treat.
I appreciate
I
it.
I was happy, bubbling. So I see one question in the chat from Lisa Miller. I have a few nosy questions, but please, I encourage all participants, please drop your questions into the chat and we'll go over them in this Q&A segment. But from Lisa Miller, Lisa asks, what do you typically do to find the creative flow, or what happens that finds you in poetry?
So it varies. I have at the beginning of this, I don't know if you all heard them. My two or our two children were upstairs trying to find a way to split some joist and end up in the basement in the office. So I say all that to say I have to steal a lot of time in order to try to write now. With the two babies, they keep me rather busy. Um, but a lot of what I do is pay attention to what's going on around me. I find it's easier to step into a poem or start writing a poem if I'm writing about something that I've already been thinking about a lot. That I write about what I'm obsessed about. Uh, that seems to be really like that. That seems to be where the creative juices are and where they exist and where I can whenever I do steal 30 minutes, that's where I can actually put pen to page or thumb to phone screen because I have to do that sometimes too. Um, but the I also like I in terms of what finds me in poetry. The As of late, what I've been doing is I have been using the like Audible has been my my saving grace. I walk around the house with headphones in and I just listen to books. I don't have time to like sit down and read them when it's me and my wife's a nurse. So she's working 13, 14-hour shifts sometimes. I'm I'm like, hey, put that down. No, you can't have that. Please don't stab your brother. Um, and I've got an earphone in and just listening. And then once they're in bed, if I'm still able to like stay awake, that's where I am. And sometimes that comes out in the poems. My characters feel they feel frustrated with at least Josh and a couple of these poems feel frustrated with some of the behavior of their kids. and I get it.
Thank you so much. So to piggyback off of that, the coyote monogamy poem,
Yes,
for one, like thank you for being a woo-woo poet who sees like some really morbid stuff out in the world and goes to write about it. But I was wondering if after you encountered this coyote in the wild, like did you was this like an immediate I need to get to a pen and paper, I need to write this down on my phone kind of poem, or did you like sit with that image and then come back?
I I sat with that one for several years actually. I do remember, like I remember when I saw the like it was that was my first time ever seeing a coyote. Um, was when it was dead. Um, uh, because because of where I lived, there I saw a fox, I saw deer, I never saw a coyote in person. I'd seen them on TV, and I was like, oh, I didn't realize their teeth were that sharp. That was the first thing that I said was I didn't realize their teeth were that sharp. And then they were just like, all right, we're just gonna throw it off to the side because we have work to do. And that felt weird to me. I felt like we should have been like I felt like we should have sat with that a little longer. And it just stuck with me that experience. That and then several years later, I finally have the poem. Does that answer the question?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. That was like a burning question for me. Um, let's see, there's another question in the chat. Jennifer asks, do you listen to poetry via Audible? I guess like all poetry or just whenever you can?
So actually my big thing so I listen to prose on Audible. I have not listened to any poetry on Audible. I use YouTube for all of my poetry listening. Uh, and actually I have a goal of putting some of my poetry on YouTube. I either write it or I have to put it on. I can't do both. I feel like there's not enough time in the day.
Dope. There's also like a poem a day kind of thing. I think it's on one of the podcasts that I listen to. But like if you just want a soundbite of poetry, that's for anybody out there. Like just no, I think it's poetry.org, maybe.
Yeah,
Um
now when I'm teaching, I make my students read, and I try to do it too. We read. We do. They have to read the first 15 minutes of of class. 10 to 20 minutes. I average it out to 15 every day when they walk into the classroom. They have to start reading. I teach 9 through 12. Um, and whenever so I let them know that they can either read the news. I send them down to the library and they can go check out a book, or I give them like poets.org, Poetry Foundation. They can read poetry there as well. Those are their options.
yeah, we love accessible poetry. Um so okay, the watermelon poem. For one, thank you for starting us off with that poem, and sorry for calling it the watermelon poem. It's watermelon in books.
Yes,
Um,
I
but
know what you meant.
uh, I just had a conversation with someone like maybe a week ago. It's a borderline stranger, but she was talking about how she refuses to eat watermelon in public or to eat watermelon around non-black people, and I was like, my sister has the same thing. Like, and I don't get it, and I don't agree with
Right.
it, but you live your life. So with the watermelon poem, why the watermelon as like a central symbol? Is it like reclamation? Does it represent more? Is it hinting toward like the conflict and genocide in Gaza? Just wanted to ask about that.
So my hope was that it would do both of those things. The watermelon is a symbol for I mean it has stood in as a symbol when for example the Palestinian flag is banned. The watermelon turns into a stand-in. And oppressed people throughout history have created stand-ins for or whenever their actual symbols for freedom, liberty, and justice are criminalized, they create new ones. And the watermelon is that for Palestinian folks and those who are allies or aiming to be one. And also for Black folks, the watermelon is, I go back and look at cartoons from the early 20th century and to get a feel for, if you're not already familiar with how disgusting the imagery is of Black folks and watermelons. But I didn't want to as a poet, I didn't want to I wanted to take some poetic license and be a little creative with how I approached what I feel is a pretty delicate topic, but something that was really real to me. That did happen. I was sitting in a library and all these beautiful babies were making a Palestinian flag, and they thought I was gonna like not be okay with it. I was like, oh, let's let me help you. Let me in whatever way I can. So there was a pink heart in the middle. It was beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. That's a beautiful story. Okay, one nosy poem. Let me make sure I'm not like, oh no, one nosy question. Are the stops in the tenant poem like full stops, like periods, or like the word stop written out on the page?
So it's both. So it's stop. So it's the end of the sentence, then stop is its own word in all caps, then period. And then at the end of the poem, there is no period. There is no stop. See if I can pull that. Yeah, so I don't know if you can, if it'll let you. It might
No,
not.
no.
Okay.
That's okay.
But I can take a picture of it and send it to you. But yeah, so the original version had it in all caps. When they were setting it, excuse me, on the page, they were like, let's not do all caps. So the TOP are not in all caps, but the periods are at the end of every line except for the last one.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. And why persona poetry? I like to ask this for anyone who does persona poetry. I know that's like a loose-ended question, but the follow-up is, did you ever speak to Gibson in like a woo-woo tapping into the persona kind of way?
Um the so I'm gonna think about that second question some more. But the first one is um the I feel that poetry is the best way, and I'm a little biased, but I feel that poetry is the best way for us to really tap into the emotions of our reader. Is the and is the quickest way to get there as well. And I wanted to tell this story, but I didn't want to tell it as a fan or a spectator. I wanted to tell the story as the individuals, or as a fan through the individuals, I guess is the better way I would say that. Because I wouldn't claim to be Josh, but I am a fan of Josh who's trying to tell his story from his point of view. And the individuals surrounding him. And the beautiful thing the thing that I love most about persona poetry is I am able to, as the poet, step into different. I don't have to do as much work as someone writing prose to bounce, to tell the same, to write a poem about the same event from two different points of view. Through persona poetry, I just change the name of the character. As long as I've developed the character, I can change the name. And you've already, as the reader, if I've done my job well, taken on that other person's point of view, and you're already expecting a different voice, and that That I really like about, because I like to excuse me, I like to bounce back and forth. I like to like I said, I like to have a poem. There's a couple of poems where Josh is talking about what he thinks black baseball is, and Hooks Tinker on the next page says what he thinks black baseball is, and neither one of them is wrong. um it's just a different point of view, and if I was writing prose, that's a lot more work. And like I said, I got two kids. I don't have I don't have the time at this point in my life to do all of that. The same thing with like Josh as a hitter, and then Satchel Paige as a pitcher. um I have to, as a prose writer, I got to do a whole bunch of work. But if I do personal poetry, I just have to show you that Satchel Paige is a pitcher, and then you just are along for the ride. um I and the answer to your second question, I think I have it now. I think I didn't really like have a talk to Josh, but what I did find throughout the writing process, and it's actually a little bit easier in the second collection that I'm working on than it was at the start of this one. I'm a little bit older. I've written more. I've read more, a lot more. Um, it's more so I have moments where I'm like, Josh would say this. Um, Josh would not have anything to say about, like, he would not have an opinion on this. This is not a Josh poem. There was a couple. So one of these poems that I didn't read tonight, but is in the book. It's early on. I was trying to figure out how I tell the story of the twins entering the world. Um, and I just didn't know. I didn't know what to do. So I wrote like 6 different poems, and I finally I just had one evening. I was like, what if Josh Jr. tells this story? Because I'd already written other poems from Josh's point of view. I already had developed what I thought was his voice, and there it was. Josh Jr. tells the story of like a nightmare that he has of them entering the world. And I at that point I was like, okay, that's what I need to be doing whenever I'm struggling to write one of these poems. It's not, I might be trying to write it from the wrong point of view. And what character needs to tell this, which one of these characters needs to tell this story. And then if I can't figure out who it is, maybe that character doesn't exist in the story yet. Which is where like Chester Washington comes in, because none of these players or managers would have said that. But Chester Washington actually did send a telegram to Pittsburgh Pirates. So that's more so what happened is I would start to be like, hey, what would this person say?
Wow, thank you so much. I will have to email you my last few nosy questions. But thank you so much for
No, thank
reading
you.
with us for us, Dorian. Thank y'all for coming. Be sure to follow Dorian on Instagram at Dorian_Hairston, and check out Dorian's website that has been posted in the chat. And if you
Thank you,
haven't
Jennifer.
already if you haven't already done so, please check out Dorian's book. That link has been posted in the chat as well. Our
Thank you.
next, no problem, no problem. Our next KSPS event is a members only open mic on Tuesday, August 20th at 8 p.m. And then the following month, we'll have our next featured reader. That will be Katerina Stoikova on Tuesday, September 17th at 8 p.m. Please follow us on Facebook and Twitter, subscribe to our newsletter, and visit our website to stay updated on all KSPS events. Thank y'all so much. Peace and blessings.
Thanks so much. It was wonderful.
Thank you. Bye bye, y'all.